Hey everyone, welcome back to a new episode of Design, Create, Inspire in a new year. We made it to 2021, which is so exciting. I always love the new year just because there's just this energy. Everyone is hopeful and excited and positive, and especially this year, I think, with how 2020 went, I think even though I believe that a date doesn't change everything, there's something about the energy of everybody in being excited and everything that I love. So I hope you had a wonderful holiday, a wonderful new year, and, and I know it was very, different than normal, not really being able to see friends and family like usual, which I was feeling a little this year. It was tough, but I hope that you still were able to enjoy it the most. So before I dive into today's topic, I do have a little bit of business. I decided to do something at the end of the year, and I haven't really, I just recently executed it, but I had a couple people, quite a few, reach out through like email or through Instagram, and were just so supportive and sweet about the podcast. And I just love hearing the feedback. It's so nice, especially with a dialogue like this where it's not even, it's like a monologue, it's not a dialogue. I don't get to hear feedback directly, or I don't get to see comments directly. So it's really helpful when people do reach out or leave reviews so that I know that people are finding value in this. So I have had a couple people say, how can we support you? Or I love what you're doing. It's provided so much value for me. Like, what can I do? So I decided I haven't wanted to put ads in the show quite yet. I'm sure, of course, one day I would love to if I found the right sponsor and it fit well with the show, because, of course, monetization is always a pro for something like this that does take quite a few hours. So one day I would love to do that. However, I'm just, with it being so new, I just don't want to do that quite yet. But so I was trying to think of what I should do. And so I decided to put together a Patreon. And for those of you that don't know Patreon, it's basically like a platform for creators and artists and everyone who do provide free resources and art to people. It's a way for those people to become supporters. So, as little as like a couple bucks a month. So literally for like the price of a coffee, like a black coffee, no cream, um, you can support the show. So it's on Patreon, Design, Create, Inspire, and I will put a link in the notes. And I will be providing with that some little bonuses. So early access to shows and videos. I'm going to be doing some exclusive shows that will just be for Patreon. I've already recorded a bunch of, what am I calling them? They're like quick questions. So I think I have like 15 or 20 quick questions where there's a lot of common questions I get asked, and it's like a spitfire quick question and answer thing. So that's going to be on there for Patreon. I'm also going to be providing some of my downloads. So on my website, I do have some downloads that are paid for. They're not much. They're like 20 bucks or something. But I will be providing some of those for certain tiers of the Patreon too. So there's bonuses that work for it. It's also, supports the show and allows me to provide better quality content for you each month. So if that is something you are interested in, I thank you so much, and you can head over there. And again, the link will be in the comments. But anyways, to today's show, I'm very excited about today's show because it is all about minimalism. So I guess like I always do this. I basically like go off my head and not off my notes at all, because I guess like right when I said that, what pops up in my head is that I want people to know that living a minimalist lifestyle or living minimally doesn't necessarily mean you have to live in like a cold house and I mean cold in terms of like it's concrete and very modern design, which I love, but some people think it's cold or it doesn't feel lived in at all. I know that a lot of times there is some flack of modern design from certain people that it's just not their style because they want something homey and warm and cozy and lived in. So, right off the bat, I want to say that you can live a minimal lifestyle and be a minimalist, even if you live in a space like that. And just because you live minimally doesn't mean you have to have sharp edges and it's not kid friendly and there's zero toys. I mean, for me and my family try our best to live a minimalist lifestyle. We have a kid, we have basically a farm, we have two cats, two dogs, a bearded dragon, like it all. I love bold colors in my design, so we don't have like one single color palette in terms of artwork. I love beautiful, bright colored artwork. Some of my favorites are from local artists or from Peru. So we live minimally. However, visually, there's still character, if that makes sense. Like basically, what it comes down to is by living minimally, we try to reduce clutter and try to be intentional with what we bring in and out of the house. Some of us are better than others, and I'm going to go into that later of how do you do this when you live with a family, because that can be a challenge. However, it's totally doable. So, what got me basically started in this was, I think it was around 2016. I watched the movie, and I was in it before I watched this movie, but this one really like lit a fire under me, is Minimalism on Netflix, and it's still on there. Definitely go watch it. And actually, I just went on there on New Year's Day on Netflix, and they just came out with like a sequel. I only watched maybe 30 minutes of it, so I'm excited to finish it. But so now there's two minimalist movies on there. I also think that nowadays it's become a lot more popular with like Marie Kondo and the KonMari movement or method, and shows like organizing shows and stuff like that on Netflix and TV. I don't know what they're on, but so I think it's becoming more mainstream and like trendy, maybe, which is really exciting because it is a really good trend, especially with how crazy everything is with Amazon and how easy it is to purchase things. I mean, we could literally think of something 30 minutes later, it could be at our door. So, the consumer culture that we live in right now is so high that it's sometimes challenging to be a minimalist or to go that route. But, and I'll talk about it later, but like there's so many benefits of this. So, back in 2016, I watched that documentary Minimalism, which kind of got me excited about it and ready to actually start taking steps towards it. Again, I kind of always had that in the back of my mind, probably most once I became an adult. When I was a child, I didn't really think much of that, but like as an adult, I started wanting to live more minimally. Okay, and then 2016. So that documentary, and then there was also this thing. I don't even know how I found it, but it's called Project 333, and that was really the first project that I took on that pretty much changed things for me. So definitely go look it up, Project 333. I'm not going to go into total like all the details, but it's basically like 33 items of clothing, and every 3 months you go through it. And I'm pretty sure that's right. But 33, it sounds really extreme. And it kind of was extreme because I think it was 33 total items, like including jewelry and stuff like that. I didn't do that, but I did 33 pieces of clothing. and anything that's out of season, anything that you don't want to wear, or it's okay. Start off first. Take everything out of your closet. Only put back in the closet what you love with intention. And this makes it so much easier when you're taking things and putting them back in, rather than if you're going through and you're like taking things out to get rid of it, it's so much easier to leave stuff in that you maybe don't really love. So you have to take everything out, put back things, and you only put back things too that are in season. So that's part of like the 3-month thing. Here in San Diego, little different because we kind of have like 1 to 2 seasons. 2 seasons. But then you store whatever is out of season, but then you get rid of everything else. What I did too, if there was in between things, like I wasn't positive if I wanted to get rid of it, then I would put it in a storage box that was basically out of sight, out of mind, and would go back in it in 3 months. If I still didn't like need it or care about it, or I didn't think about it twice, I get rid of it. So this project basically changed how I did things. I went from, I basically reduced my closet or my wardrobe by 2/3. And it does sound kind of extreme, but for me, it really worked and it felt very cleansing and wonderful. 2016, I was also pregnant and my daughter was due beginning of 2017. So that was also part of my purge. We didn't have a lot of room for another human in our space. So I wanted to get it as decluttered as possible to make room for her. And that really helped. It just cleared the space. It was the best. So then I realized that with that, I wanted to move that into other areas of my life. So I just started practicing this concept of, do I love it? Does it bring me happiness? Do I have multiple things of the same that serve the same purpose? Like, do I have 1,000 pens? Probably don't need 1,000 pens. And that's, as an architect, you tend to have 1,000 pens. So it was going through each area step by step. So then in January of 2017, I started this as a challenge. So I started this 30-day minimalism challenge, taking the different concepts, taking kind of what I had learned, and I put it in a step-by-step challenge, basically for myself. And so I would do this challenge January, and then usually another time during the year, like maybe summertime, just to do it more often. And it's very interesting because the more you do it, obviously, the way easier it is. Like parts of the challenge, I barely even do anymore now because I don't even need to, because I've gone through it and haven't needed to do it again. The first time around, it's definitely a big task. So, it's a lot more work. But the more you do it, it's easier. And it also allows you to be very intentional with what you bring in, because especially when I was doing the project 333, I'm like, okay, I have 33 items. If I bring one in, I have to get rid of one because then I'm at 34. So that allowed me to be really intentional. And with the minimalism, you start to kind of, at least for me, I started to get kind of off track a little bit. So doing it twice a year gets me back on track, gets that clarity, gets me excited about that whole mindset again, and gets me there. So the benefits I saw pretty much instantly were, especially one with the wardrobe, is I tend to be kind of a creature of habit, especially with my wardrobe. I'm a minimalist in terms of dressing anyways. So I love basics with a few key bold pieces. So I don't need 1,000 pieces. I can have a handful, and it doesn't mean they're dirty, or it doesn't mean I have to wear the same thing every day. It's just like a capsule wardrobe. And I find that this is amazing because when I'm going to pick something out, I basically wore a capsule wardrobe anyways, but I would filter through all the things I didn't want to wear just to find what I wanted to wear. Now, like, I don't have to look through that shirt that I would pass by year after year. Now it's just what I wear. So this clarity and simplicity, it's less stressful. Um, in terms of the house, when you declutter, it helps so much because there's just not visual clutter. There's not visual items. It helps with cleaning because you're not having to put away so much stuff. This, especially with kids, is huge because with kids, it gets out of control so quickly. And my daughter is almost 4 now, and so she's really into all the little things like Legos, and each thing that she buys has 1,000 little pieces that are this big. So it's hard, it can get really out of control really quick. So I have kind of a one in, one out rule, which I'm not super strict on, but I try to be pretty much with it on, is when a toy or a new thing comes out, we choose a toy that we don't use anymore and we donate it. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit about getting kids involved and stuff. But that has been helpful because it keeps it rotating. We can't expect her to not have new toys. I mean, especially with the holidays and birthdays and family and friends who buy her things. I'm not like so strict that we only play with, you know, the stick and that's it. Like we have toys and stuff, but I try to be very conscious of what's played with, what's not played with, and filter things out and donate as much as possible. I'm part of a group called Buy Nothing, which is BUY Nothing on Facebook. And if you're on Facebook, do that. It's your local, they're local based on where you live. And it's just basically like a donation area. So I will put toys on there. I'll put things on there all the time. It's the best because then more people can enjoy it. And I make that dialogue clear with my daughter too. Like, do you play with this anymore? No? Okay. Let's donate it to someone who will play with it. Or, a little kid might love this and it would bring them so much joy. And in the beginning of doing this, we started early, like when she could communicate, like 18 months, I would walk her through it. And of course, she would say no, she doesn't want to donate, or want to keep everything, which makes sense. But I would still keep her involved in the system, because I'd say, okay, well, we'll play with it for a little bit longer. If we don't, then we'll donate it. I don't want to make it traumatic or anything like that. I don't want her to have like this association with like needing to keep everything, or everything gets thrown away or whatever. But then I generally would go through all her stuff afterwards, clear it out, whatever is not age appropriate anymore, or whatever she doesn't play with, put it in a bag, put it out of sight. If it's not asked for a week or two, I donate it. But as she started getting older, she's starting to catch on more, and she'll even come up to me and say, Mom, I don't play with this anymore. We can donate it. It's no problem. And I'm, great. This is amazing. So even if you feel like your kids aren't listening and you're like just talking to a wall, I swear they're listening and it's going through. It's just, practice, and they see what you do and they'll emulate it. So that has been how we've been successful with doing this with the kids. But yeah, so I have created, I don't know why I'm just now telling you this, I'm probably like 20 minutes into this, but I created a 30-day minimalism challenge PDF. So after in 2017, after my first year of doing it, I jotted it down and I made notes and stuff. And in 2018, I believe, I posted it on Instagram. And so I had people join in on it and each day posted the challenge and got a lot of great feedback. And in 2019, I did it again too. And each time people have loved it. So I decided this year to create an actual PDF where it is the overall calendar, and then each day has recommendations, tips. It even has links to certain items that I love that keeps things really organized. And then at the end, I have inspiration, books that are really great for this topic, and then like more individual products and stuff that help with keeping organized. And I know it's like buying products for being minimal, but it really does make a difference with how you store things to keep that minimal lifestyle going. So everything needs a home. And if things have a home that's clear and hopefully labeled, which I know can like be a little type A. And if you're not type A at all, it could be like, yeah, right, like I'm gonna have a labeled bin. But I promise you, it seriously is a game changer, especially with family, because if you have a labeled bin, there's no questions about it. Even on my daughter's thing, on the label maker, there's like little pictures that you can put on it. So like it'll say dolls, and then I can put a little picture of like a little girl. And I promise you, it really makes a difference, because then there's no question. My husband can't be like, oh, where does this go? I'm like, oh, there's a label right there, easy. So it really makes it kind of idiot proof for the whole family. So labels, again, bins, like keeping things just contained and organized. It's helpful for organization, but also to keep things minimal, because you know where things are. You don't buy something new because you didn't know where to find the thing you already have. Um, and it just helps streamline things. So there's a couple tips I have for starting a minimal lifestyle. So, of course, download the challenge. I have a lot of tips and resources and what to ask yourself in there. But just off the bat, if you want to start this practice right this second, a couple things are being really intentional. So, being intentional with how you bring things into your house. So, how you spend money and how you purchase and what you bring in. And then the other thing is just how long you hold on to things. I know there's a lot of people that have a hard time getting rid of things, and so this could be especially difficult for them. But it's really important to ask yourself, like, why you're holding on to it. So, one thing that's really important is having a single use item. So basically like an item that only works for one thing, rather than a item or a tool that works for multiple different things. So I see this a lot in the kitchen. In the kitchen, there's a lot of gadgets and items that are sold that are really, really, really specific. Like I can think of a grapefruit slicer or segmenter. There's like these little things that you can push into a grapefruit and it gets the little piece out perfectly. It's like, okay, well, or you could just use a knife and segment it. And then you can use that knife for like 1,000 other things. So I think that is really important, especially when you're buying, make sure, like, does this have multiple uses, or am I just buying this one thing for this one use that I may use 3 times and then it's just taking up space? Um, and then the other thing is, when you're going through all your stuff, take an inventory of how often you use it. Does it serve multiple purposes? Not that everything has to serve multiple purposes, but just take an inventory. If you've only used it maybe once in the last year and it's only really for avocados, and you've had avocados multiple times in the last month, but you don't even use the avocado thing, get rid of it. So it's kind of like, these are the ways to go through things and feel comfortable with getting rid of things. Sentimental items are a tough one, because these can be really difficult for people to get rid of, and for good reason. It's understandable. There's a couple different reasons items are sentimental, and I think that is important to think about when you are going through things. Why is it sentimental? Does it provide positive feelings and joy and happiness, or does it bring negative feelings? Is it from a negative time in your life, or maybe a negative person that you no longer have in your life? Those are really important things to distinguish whether you should keep it or not. Really thinking about that and just ripping the Band-Aid off and getting rid of things. Another one that I see a lot is paperwork. So kids' artwork, old school work, some people, and I was one of them too. Like I keep binders of old school work, and it's like, why? What am I ever going to do with this? And also, like, would I ever pull it out? Sometimes, you're proud of yourself for your work. So what I recommend with paperwork is scan it all. Even if you don't have a scanner, we all have phones in our pockets these days, and there's lots of great scanner apps. Scan it, take a good quality scan, and compile it onto a folder on your computer. And then you have it all, but then you can purge it. So you're not having to store that paperwork. So I have a couple items like this, like journals from when I was in fifth grade and little things like that, that like have the paperwork, or I mean, not the paperwork, have the handwriting and little nuances that I love. And so I do keep a few items. But what I recommend with sentimental items is that you narrow it down to a single box. And I know for some people that can be very difficult. So what I do recommend doing is having your one single box that you narrow it down to that has all your sentimental items. And if you do have overflow, make one more box with your maybe items and put that away. Obviously, your sentimental items will probably go in storage too, but make a note, put it away, and in 3 months, come back to it and go through it again. Were any of the items something that you just like felt dread that you got rid of it, quote unquote, got rid of it, or you felt like you needed it in that time? Sometimes I find that going through things a second time, you're like, why was I keeping this? I don't need this. I can get rid of it. And so do it a couple times, narrow it down until you can only have that one box, because that really does make a difference. So this video and podcast is getting a little longer than I would generally like. I think that there's so much information. I could go on forever, but I don't want to lose you and lose the interest. So I'm going to stop it here. I'm going to say go download the 30-day minimalism challenge. There's lots of great information in there, day-to-day tips and tricks and hacks and all of that stuff. But then also reach out to me if you have any specific questions. I am thinking about doing like a video series on the day today, maybe like take it 1 week at a time, but I'm not positive I'm going to do that yet, and I may do that for the Patreon, so TBD. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave that here. I again hope you guys had a wonderful year. I hope that or wonderful New Year's. I hope that you do have a wonderful year, and I thank you all so much for supporting me and joining me on the last 3 months that we've been doing this. I've been loving it, and I can't wait for many more exciting episodes for the new year. So head on over to Instagram at BeYoungDesign. Follow me there. Patreon now at Design Create Inspire. My website, of course, where you can always find me and reach out to me. You can rate and review, YouTube, iTunes. I'm kind of everywhere all at once, and it's crazy and I love it. So if you have any comments or questions, again, like I was saying earlier, I love when people reach out and let me know. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you all next week. Bye.